Now, there's been a lot of chatter here in York, both on the air and on social media, about the state of the financial health of this game. It is in rude health at the moment, snooker, particularly due to Barry Hearn's influence over the last 5 or 6 years. But there's also a lot of talk about the prize money. Now, it's topped over £10 million for the first time ever on the World Snooker Tour. But is it being disseminated right down to the lower echelons of this tour? Remember, it's a big tour, 128 players. Now, there's £170,000 for the winner this evening, and there was nothing if you lost in the first round. Is that the way it should be? Well, opinion is split on that issue.
A first-round loser will never get any money. You can forget that completely. I don't pay losers. I pay winners, and I pay them very well. I don't subsidise mediocrity. There is no such thing as minimum wages in a competitive sport. It's not an employment job. You know, minimum wages is for someone who goes to work on a regular basis every day. Professional sportsmen choose to follow their dreams.
There's so many people going broke in this game, and something needs done about it. 3/4 of the tour are losing money every event. All 64 first-round losers are down money. 32 second-round losers are probably down money, apart from here in the World Championships and the International Championships, because the money's more for winning your first match. Now, we come here, we play our first match for £5,000. Why not take 1,000 of that and give it to the first round losers? It's not going to make a lot of difference in the grand scheme of things, but for the 64 losers it does.
I think that's a very good idea. So if you played in 15 or 20 events and you were guaranteed 50 or 20, all that's doing is covering costs. Like, before I hit a ball, my expenses are £30,000 every year. You'd have to win a lot of matches to earn 30,000, which just makes you even, let alone if you're married and you've a kid and mortgage.
When we get in nothing, the first round is such a big tournament for people. People are sweating, you can see that they can't play.
I think we should be on something for, you know, even if 500 quid or something, you know, just to, because it's really expensive, you know, the flights, accommodation.
You can't pay first round losers. I think that's a no-no. You just can't do it. You've got to win matches to get money, as far as I'm concerned.
It's hard, brutal, single-player sport where if you win and do well, the rewards are there. And if you lose first match, you better go and do a bit more work and practice, because it's brutal.
We've trebled the prize money in 5 years. We are making efforts to move some of that money further down the scale to give people a chance to keep those dreams alive. But I won't do that at the expense of sponsoring mediocrity, because sport is not about mediocrity. If you want to have a comparison, look at the golf circuit. If you play the European Tour, it costs you about £50,000 a year to play that. And of course, if you don't make the cut, you get nothing.
We've all got more playing opportunities. We've all got more opportunities to earn money, to win trophies, and to put food on the table for our family. And what Barry and the team have done is put on tournaments around the world and said, right boys, if you can afford the entry fees, if you can get your expenses, there's a tournament if you want to come and play it.
To those players that are not winning enough matches, either improve or look for another job.
If you guaranteed me more money in another job, I wouldn't take it. I love playing snooker. But having said that, just because we all love it and we all work hard, that doesn't mean we can't get more money as well. You know, as much as I love the game, people want to give me more money, happy days.
I don't think the standard's that good now. I've got to be honest, when I look at what's coming through, I look at it and I just think, God, I was better than them when I was 11. You know, they wouldn't have got near me. So when I turned pro, I was ready. A lot of these guys ain't ready to mix it with
the real class players.
I just think there's too many pros on the tour. I think take £1 million off the main tour prize money, fund that into the amateur game, and have a really good amateur setup. We'll all be on decent money then, and it'll also be decent money in the amateur game.
If it was me, I'd have 2 tours, an A and a B tour. I've 64 on the A tour, 64 on the B tour, and you have 16 players getting relegated and promoted.
We all come through a different format, like the tiered system, where you weren't really outlaying a lot of expenses and you were playing against players that were roughly your same level. And if you could come through those tiers, then you were coming up against your Mark Selby's and Ronnie O'Sullivan's, but you'd already won money. But now these guys are coming up against the best players and they've not really got much of a chance.
Don't expect a little benefit check in the post every week from Barry Hearn, because you're not going to get it. You know, we live and die on what we do ourselves. No excuses in this world. It's brutal. It's tough. The UK Championships we're seeing now is probably the most brutal of all of them, because number 1 plays number 128. It's a balance, isn't it? Firstly, you can't make it too soft. Secondly, you have to explain to people without sounding too harsh, sport's about winning. If you win enough matches, you'll make enough money. But if you don't win those matches, please don't look for handouts or sponsorships, because we'd all love to be professional sportsmen. When I was younger, I used to dream of being heavyweight champion of the world. Then I found out I couldn't fight. It was a big setback, but I had to look in the mirror and say, Bazza, this is not for you. And some of the sportsmen, they're in all sports, including snooker, eventually will have to look in that mirror and say, I'm not good enough. What we're saying to all the players is, make sure you can see a light at the end of the tunnel, and then keep your fingers crossed it's not a train coming towards you.
The irrepressible Barry Hearn, and there have been huge strides made in this sport, of course. And you know, just looking at it, 10 years ago there were 7 world ranking events in the whole season. Now there are 19, and in the year before Barry Hearn took over, there were 6 world ranking events. So the opportunities are manifold for players coming in. But as with any new system, Ken's joined us in the studio here. Is there room for some tweaking? Is there room for improvement? Kent, you're still in the 64. What's your view?
Of course. Look, every system has flaws. I mean, we're in a golden age of snooker at the moment, you know, with so many tournaments, so much money on offer for players. But you can understand a lot of the gripes of the players down at the bottom end of the scale who are going to tournaments, whereas before we were guaranteed money, now you're not, you have to win to. But other sports are the same, like golf and tennis as well, where you have to win to earn money. But it is expensive for a lot of players, and you could tell a lot of them are struggling to make a living and even to make it to the next tournament, you know, because they've got entry fees and expenses and stuff like that. But it is brutal, and it's very, very difficult. It would be nicer if some of the money, which seems a lot top heavy to those players down the bottom of the list, to sort of spread it a little bit, you know, and a little bit more for if you win your first round, as opposed to being guaranteed money, you know.
OK, now you're probably siding with Mark Allen in that respect, because Mark Allen's been quite vociferous, as he is, on a number of issues, about trying to perhaps take a little bit off the top and just spreading it more equitably on the bottom. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think it's a terrible idea. I think if you're going to have a system, and Barry's already said that, he said, look, he's not going to pay the first round, so you're not going to get anywhere, because Barry says what it is, and that's what's going to happen. So at least let the players who are down there play their opening round against people of the same level of ability. Now, if they're losing their first round matches against people who are ranked 128, but there's one lad who turned pro, he got John Higgins, Sean Murphy, Stephen Maguire and Neil Robertson in his first 4 tournaments. Well, he ain't getting any money there. He's got absolutely no chance. It's not doing a bit of good. His confidence is going to be shot to bits. At least let him play, earn some money against people lower down the rank, and then join the players further up, like a tiered system like John Higgins said. Give him a chance at least.
Yeah, so not an open draw, per se.
Just let them play the first round against people who they're near in the ranking list, and let them give a chance at least getting some money.
Not that I'm disagreeing with what you're saying, but the tiered system brought up the problem of protection for top players.
No, I'm only talking about the first round. I'm not talking about so I'm not talking about people who are 60. Yeah, I'm talking about just the first round. At least play somebody with a level of it. I mean, there was people here who played here this week who've got no chance. And honestly, I watched a couple of, I'm not going to name names, they had no chance of beating the top players. Not whatsoever.
OK, Steve, join in this one. Do you believe that John's got a point here?
Well, look, it's an embarrassment if the game of snooker can actually fund 128 players. I don't know about other sports. I don't know about the golf circuit. I don't know about the European circuit. I don't know about the tennis circuit. I mean, can you? Your son plays.
No, if you don't win your first match, you don't get paid in those sports.
So I don't have any history of understanding how other sports work. But some other sports have a hell of a lot more money in them than snooker does. Now we've improved, but we need to improve again. That's Barry Hearn's job. He's dragged the game from 7 tournaments and £3 million prize to £10 million prize in 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Okay. If it stagnates, then there's a long-term problem. But if he jumps it up again because there's more interest worldwide, perhaps that problem goes away and it's only an interim problem. Now, the actual minutiae of where you spread the money, yeah, perhaps you're right. Perhaps you can get the balance right there. And he'll be listening to this and he'll be understanding that if enough players start to get upset, that's not good because he doesn't want the sponsors to hear that. That's not good for... You don't hear that in many other sports. But we don't want to stop giving too much prize money to the top players because then it's not aspirational. There is the problem for both parties.
Exactly. So you're talking about a teething issue, in effect, which clearly affects the livelihood of those at the bottom. Yes, but the other issue that's come out of this discussion is, would you restructure the tour? Would you go back to recreating an A and a B tour, as Mark Selby has suggested, a lower tier tour? It works in other sports. It works very well in golf.
I don't think if you asked any of those players outside the top 64, would they like to play on a B tour and not have the chance of playing in front of that crowd out there now and come through the system that way? I'd say they'd say no. I want to play on the main tour. If I'm a professional, I want to play. I want to have the chance to play out there, and I'm sure all the other lads down that end of the ladder would too as well.
Not sustainable, John?
As I say, I'm going to go back. Listen, I'm not having to go Barry Hearn here, by the way, because what he's done to turn the game round is phenomenal.
I mean,
none of that, that's not the issue.
That, yeah.
You know, when I packed in playing 6-7 years ago, there was 7 tournaments to play, and I could have been a taxi driver in the middle of it because I had there's no point in practicing.
Steve,
yeah, exactly. There was no point in practicing because I had another 5-6 weeks before I played. So to turn it round and to get the levels of prize money is absolutely fantastic. But we're just saying it needs a little bit of looking at and a little bit of tweaking.
OK, I think everybody will agree to disagree with that one and some of the points, but the debate goes on. But it's a healthy debate to be having at a time when there's £10 million worth of prize money going around, exactly. And those who do get into the top 16 are guaranteed some real benefits in this sport because they will automatically be invited to some of the top invitational tournaments. And of course, the biggest of the lot is the Masters tournament.